Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy true crime stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. It began on a quiet Thursday evening in Ridgeway, a small town tucked between pine forests and long stretches of empty highway. The kind of place where people didn't lock their doors and neighbors waved at each other without thinking. But at 9:47 p.m., all of that changed, because of a motion alert on a home security camera. The footage belonged to Daniel and Liza Mercer, a couple who had recently installed a set of high-definition outdoor cameras after a series of small break-ins in the area. Most nights, the system sent alerts triggered by raccoons or wind-blown branches. But this time, something was different. The notification read, "Unusual movement detected, front yard." Daniel tapped the screen, expecting nothing. But the moment the clip played, his stomach tightened. A tall figure stood perfectly still near the edge of their driveway, not walking, not approaching, just standing. The person's posture was strange, almost rigid, and their head seemed slightly tilted toward the house as if they were studying it. The timestamp on the footage showed the figure had been there for at least 20 minutes before the camera picked it up. No face could be seen, the person wore a hooded jacket and kept their back to the camera. But something felt intentional. Calculated. Daniel called out to his wife. "Liza, you need to see this." She walked over, still drying her hands from washing dishes, and froze when she saw the screen. "Who is that?" she whispered. Neither of them knew. And neither of them wanted to find out on their own. Daniel dialed the police. By the time officers arrived, the figure was gone. No footprints. No tire marks. No sign of where they'd gone or how they'd vanished so quietly. But that was only the beginning. The investigation begins. Detective Aaron Ward, a sharp, detail-obsessed investigator with 10 years on the force, arrived the next morning. She reviewed the footage again and again, her expression unreadable. "There's something off about this stance," she finally said. "Most prowlers move quickly, stick to the shadows. This person wanted to be seen by something, maybe not by you, but by the camera. Why just stand there?" Liza asked. "Why not try the door or break in?" Detective Ward didn't answer right away. She enlarged the image, zooming in on the figure's hands. They were gloved. Perfectly still. Not twitching or shifting like most people would if they were nervous. "Because," Ward said slowly, "this doesn't look like someone trying to get inside. It looks like someone waiting." "For what?" Daniel asked. Ward shook her head. "That's what we need to find out." She requested footage from neighboring houses, intersections, and traffic cameras. Ridgeway didn't have sophisticated citywide surveillance, but Detective Ward was thorough. She drove through the neighborhood, knocking on doors and asking for any data residents might have collected, even the small cameras people use to watch their pets or backyards. By noon, she had compiled 6 different angles from homes within a 2-block radius. And it was from that cluster of footage that the story began to shift. On a camera across the street, positioned near a garage, the same figure could be seen approaching the Mercer's house 20 minutes before appearing on Daniel's alert. The person paused in front of several homes, then finally settled in front of the Mercers. "What makes your house special?" Ward asked. Daniel and Liza glanced at each other. "Nothing," Daniel said. "We're boring people. We go to work, come home, sleep, repeat." But Ward wasn't convinced. The first clue. That evening, while reviewing the footage once more, Ward noticed something subtle, easy to miss unless you watched frame by frame. Just before the figure walked into view of the camera, they looked over their shoulder. Not once, but twice. The movement was small, but it revealed something important. The person was checking to make sure they weren't being followed. "Whoever this is," Ward told the Mercers, "they're not just wandering. They're running from something or someone." But running toward the Mercers' home? That made no sense. Then came the next shock. A neighbor's doorbell camera captured something barely visible, a quick flicker of light under the street lamp. Ward zoomed in as far as the footage allowed. In the figure's right hand, half hidden by the sleeve, was a small object. Metallic. Reflective. Not large enough to be a tool. Not shaped like a phone. It looked like a key. But whose key? And why carry it if they had no intention of entering the house? Ward was still puzzling over the object when another alert came in. The crime lab emailed her enhanced stills from the footage, cleaning up the shadows and clarifying features. One image, in particular, made her pulse jump. Under the hood, near the jawline, was a faint discoloration. Not a bruise, more like a smear of something. Dirt? Paint? No. It looked too smooth. It looked like a smudge of dark fabric dye. Something that might transfer when someone brushed against a uniform or piece of clothing. But which uniform? Ward stared at the image, her mind racing. A possibility formed, one she didn't like. A disappearance in the next town. Just as she was considering the implications, her phone buzzed. It was the county sheriff. "Aaron," he said, voice tense, "you need to come to North Bend. We've got a missing person case, and I think it connects to yours." "Who's missing?" Ward asked. "Name's Lucas Rayner. 32. Last seen wearing a Navy work jacket. Same night as your footage." Ward's heart sank slightly. A Navy work jacket. A smudge of dark fabric dye. A key in someone's hand. She grabbed her coat and turned to the Mercers. "I need to check something immediately. Keep your doors locked, and don't go outside unless absolutely necessary." "Detective, what's happening?" Liza asked. Ward hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Because if I'm right, the person who stood at your driveway wasn't just watching your home." She paused. "They were trying to reach it." Daniel frowned. "Why?" Ward looked at the still image one more time. "That's what I'm about to find out." She left quickly, starting her car and driving toward North Bend, unaware that the biggest discovery hadn't been made yet, not by her, but by Daniel Mercer. 20 minutes later, while pacing the hallway, Daniel noticed something odd. The small door that led to their basement storage room, a door they rarely used, was closed. He hadn't closed it. Neither had Liza. Daniel's hand trembled slightly as he reached for the handle and turned it. The door creaked open. And what he saw inside made his breath catch. Because someone had been in that room. And what they left behind changed everything. Daniel flicked on the basement light, his pulse pounding in his ears. The room was supposed to be untouched, a cluttered corner of old boxes, winter coats, and Liza's forgotten holiday decorations. But now, something was different. The air felt disturbed, almost unsettled, as if someone had moved through it recently. At first glance, nothing looked stolen. Nothing broken. But then he saw it, a single cardboard box pulled slightly away from the shelf, its lid shifted open just enough to reveal something inside. Daniel crouched down slowly. The box wasn't one he recognized. In fact, it didn't look like any of their moving boxes at all. The corners were worn, the tape was old, and the handwriting on the label definitely wasn't Liza's. The label read, R17, do not remove. A chill crawled up his spine. He hadn't put this box here. Neither had Liza. So how did it get into their basement? He swallowed hard and lifted the lid. Inside, wrapped in layers of newspaper, was a small metal key, identical to the one the figure appeared to be holding in the camera footage. Next to it lay a folded piece of paper, yellowed and creased, as if someone had kept it for years. Daniel hesitated, then unfolded it. On the paper were 2 words, written in rushed, panicked handwriting. "I'm not safe." Daniel nearly dropped the note. "Liza," he shouted. "Come down here." She hurried downstairs, face tense. One look at the box and her hands flew to her mouth. What is that?" Daniel handed her the note. "Someone hid this down here," he said quietly. "And I think it was the person on the camera." Before Liza could respond, Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from Detective Ward. "Still in North Bend. Stay inside. Lock all entrances. Call me if anything changes." He stared at the message. Should he tell her about the box? About the note? Part of him felt he should. But something held him back, something about the message felt off. Ward was never vague. Never unclear. Why say, if anything changes? Something had changed. Something huge. Maybe he should wait until she got back. Maybe. Before either of them could decide, the house made a sound, a soft, muffled thump from upstairs. Liza jumped, gripping Daniel's arm. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Daniel nodded. "Stay close." They moved toward the stairs cautiously, listening. The sound came again, not a knock, not a footstep, more like something falling or shifting. When they reached the hallway, Daniel scanned the area. Then he froze. The front door was unlocked. "I locked that," Liza said. "You saw me lock it." Daniel stared at the latch. It wasn't broken. It wasn't forced. It had simply been opened. Silently. Someone had entered the house. But were they still inside? He checked the living room first. Empty. Then the kitchen. Nothing. He moved down the hallway, heart racing, checking doors, closets, corners, shadows. All clear. Yet something told him they weren't alone. Something about the stillness felt wrong, like the house was holding its breath. He returned to the basement door. It was open again. But Daniel was sure he'd closed it behind him. He grabbed a flashlight and shined it down the stairs. No movement. No sound. Just darkness. Then Liza noticed something he missed. "Daniel, look at the wall." He followed her gaze. There, just above the light switch, was a faint smudge, the same kind of fabric dye Detective Ward noticed on the figure in the footage. A streak, as if someone brushed against the wall while leaving the basement. The figure had definitely been inside the house. But how long ago? Minutes? Hours? Before or after Daniel found the note? And what were they looking for? Detective Ward finds a connection. 30 miles away, Detective Ward arrived at the Rayner residence in North Bend. The missing man, Lucas Rayner, lived alone in a modest house near an old railway line. As she stepped inside, the sheriff handed her a photograph of Lucas taken the week before his disappearance. Ward stared at it, the navy work jacket, the same shade she saw in the footage. The calm, friendly expression. A man who looked harmless, unassuming. But then the sheriff spoke. Lucas filed a report 2 months ago, he said. He believed someone was following him. Ward's eyes snapped up. Did he know who? No. He said it started after he found something at work he shouldn't have. He never explained what. What's his job? She asked. The sheriff let out a slow breath. He works for Ridgeway Storage and Logistics. Ward stiffened. Storage. The kind of place that used standardized labels on boxes. Boxes like the one Daniel found. And R-17, that sounded like a storage unit code. Take me to his workplace, Ward said immediately. The mysterious unit. The building sat on the outskirts of Ridgeway, a massive concrete warehouse lined with rows of storage units. The manager, an older man with tired eyes, led Ward to the unit Lucas had worked in last. Unit R-17. The same code written on the box in the Mercer's basement. Ward stepped inside. At first glance, the storage unit seemed ordinary: boxes, shipping containers, old equipment. But Lucas had been afraid. He believed something inside this place had put him in danger. Ward scanned the unit carefully. Her instinct steered her to a metal shelf in the corner. A single box was missing from the row, the dust outline clearly visible. Who moved this box? She asked. The manager shook his head. None of this should have been touched. Lucas was the last one in here. After he went missing, I kept it locked. Ward took a deep breath. Someone had taken the missing box. Someone who knew exactly what they were looking for. Do you have security footage of the unit? She asked. The manager nodded and led her to the office. He pulled up the feed from 2 nights before Lucas vanished. Ward leaned in. A figure appeared in the frame, hooded, quiet, moving with purpose. The same build as the person at the Mercer's house. Not trying to break anything. Just retrieving a single item. A box labeled R-17. Ward's pulse quickened. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a trail. But then she saw something that made her stomach drop. As the figure left the unit, they glanced toward the camera. The hood shifted just enough to reveal part of the face, tired eyes, stubble, a small scar near the jawline. It was Lucas Rayner. The missing man. He wasn't being chased. He was hiding. Running. Trying to get something to the Mercer's house for a reason she still didn't understand. Ward grabbed her phone to call Daniel, but before she could dial, an alert flashed on her screen. Motion detected, Mercer residence, back door. Her breath caught. Whoever entered the Mercer's home. Whoever left that box. Whoever was hiding, was still there. And they weren't done. Detective Ward sped back toward Ridgeway, sirens slicing through the quiet night. The motion alert from the Mercer's home replayed in her mind, the back door, not the front. Whoever was inside hadn't left. Or worse. They were planning something. She tried calling Daniel again. No answer. The roads blurred as she pushed faster. Back at the Mercer house, Daniel and Liza stood frozen at the top of the stairs, listening. The sound had returned, a soft shift of movement coming from the back of the house. Not loud, not aggressive, but deliberate. Like someone repositioning themselves carefully, trying not to be heard. Daniel whispered, "We need to get out. Now." But Liza shook her head. If he's back there, the only way out is the front. What if he's blocking it? Daniel knew she was right. The layout of the house suddenly felt like a trap, a simple rectangular structure with too few exits and too many places someone could hide. The lights flickered. Just once. But long enough for both of them to feel the weight of the house shift into a different mood, darker, heavier, tense. Daniel grabbed his phone again, checking the camera feeds. The back door camera showed nothing but the faint sway of the tree branches. Then, a shape. Barely visible. Like someone passing through the edge of the frame. Daniel's breath caught. "Liza, we're leaving through the front." Quietly. They tiptoed down the hallway, Daniel gripping his phone like a lifeline, Liza clutching the small box they had found as if it held answers they didn't yet understand. Halfway down the hall, they froze. The basement door, closed earlier, was open again. Wide open. A cold draft drifted up the stairs, carrying with it the heavy scent of dust and something else, something metallic. Daniel stepped back slowly. "We're not going down there." But then they heard it. A voice. Weak. Barely audible. Strained. Help, please. Liza grabbed Daniel's arm. That's a person. There's someone down there. Daniel stared into the darkness of the basement doorway. He didn't want to believe it, but the voice came again, hoarse, desperate. Don't leave, please. He took a shaky breath. Stay behind me. They descended the stairs carefully. Each step creaked under their weight. The flashlight beam trembled slightly in Daniel's hand. At the bottom of the staircase, they stopped. The storage room door, the one connected to the space where the mysterious box had been, was partially closed. Daniel pushed it open with his foot. Inside, sitting against the far wall, half hidden behind a stack of crates, was Lucas Rayner. His clothes were dirty. His jacket torn. He looked exhausted, terrified, and barely conscious. But alive. Liza gasped. He's the one who was here. He's the one from the camera. Lucas raised a hand weakly. Please don't call the police yet. I can explain. Daniel exchanged a look with Liza. Detective Ward is already on her way. Lucas shook his head violently, too violently for someone so weak. No, you don't understand. Someone is after me. Someone who works with me. Someone who saw what I found. Liza stepped forward cautiously. What did you find? Lucas clutched the wall and tried to stand. Daniel rushed to help him, but Lucas recoiled. Don't touch me. If they track me here, if they know I came to this house. We saw you in the footage, Daniel said. Why our house? Why leave that box? Lucas closed his eyes, breathing hard. I didn't leave it, he whispered. I hid it. I tried to hide it where they wouldn't think to look. I picked your house because you don't work with us. You're not connected. Daniel frowned. Connected to what? Lucas looked up, eyes filled with something painfully real, fear. The storage facility, he said. Unit R-17 wasn't what it looked like. We weren't just storing equipment. There were shipments, unregistered ones. No names. No labels. Just internal codes. Someone high up was moving things through there without documentation. He coughed hard, gripping his ribs. I found something I wasn't meant to. Something dangerous. Something that could get people arrested. Or worse. Liza's voice trembled. What was in the box? Lucas shook his head. It wasn't what was in the box. It was what was missing from it. Someone took the contents. And then they came for me. He looked at Daniel with desperate intensity. I ran here because I needed somewhere to hide. I dropped the key. I panicked. Someone followed me. Someone who knew I'd taken the box. Before Daniel could respond, another sound cut through the basement. The quiet click of a door. The back door. Someone had just entered the house. Lucas's eyes widened. It's them. They found me. Daniel grabbed Liza's hand. We're getting upstairs. Now. But Lucas grabbed Daniel's sleeve with surprising strength. No, upstairs is the first place they'll check. You need to go out the basement exit. Daniel blinked. There's no basement exit. Lucas's voice cracked. Yes, there is. Behind the shelves. The previous owner sealed it, but I broke it open trying to find a way out. There's a crawl space that leads outside. The footsteps upstairs grew louder. Slow. Controlled. Someone familiar with the house layout. Daniel pulled the shelf aside, revealing a narrow opening just big enough to crawl through. Cold air rushed in. He turned to Lucas. Come with us. Lucas hesitated. I can't. If they see all three of us leaving, they'll follow. You two go. Hide. Call Detective Ward once you're safe. I'll distract them. No, Liza said firmly. We can't leave you behind. Lucas gave a weak smile. You don't understand. They're not after you. They're after what I know. The footsteps stopped at the top of the basement stairs. Silence. Then a creak. The first step down. Daniel grabbed Liza's hand and guided her toward the opening. Liza hesitated, torn, but Daniel pulled her gently. We'll come back for him. I promise. They crawled through the narrow space, dirt scraping against their arms, the cold night air growing closer. Behind them, they heard Lucas's voice. Calm. Steady. You don't need to do this, he said to the unseen figure. I didn't tell anyone. A quiet voice responded, chilling, composed. I know you didn't. Then a pause. But you were going to. Daniel and Liza scrambled out into the backyard just as Detective Ward's car screeched into the driveway. She sprinted toward them, eyes wide. What happened? Where is he? Daniel pointed toward the basement. He's still inside, and he's not alone. Ward ran toward the house, hand on her sidearm, shouting into her radio. Officers poured in seconds later. Daniel and Liza stood together, shivering in the cold night air, staring at the house that no longer felt like theirs. Minutes passed. Then Detective Ward emerged with two officers, one supporting Lucas, pale but alive, the other holding a man in handcuffs. A man wearing a Ridgeway storage and logistics uniform. Ward walked over to Daniel and Liza. "You two saved his life," she said. "And your footage, your quick thinking, it cracked open something bigger. This wasn't just one rogue employee. We're looking at an entire network." Liza swallowed. "Is it over?" Ward looked back at the house, then at the suspect in custody. "For now," she said. "But this case, it's going to get a lot deeper." Lucas looked up weakly. "Thank you," he whispered. "If you hadn't opened that door, I don't think I would have made it." Daniel nodded slowly, still shaken. "Just tell us one thing. Why us? Why our house?" Lucas exhaled. "Because yours was the only camera they couldn't tap." Detective Ward's eyes widened slightly at that, another thread in a much larger web. Daniel and Liza looked at each other, realizing this was only the beginning. Ward turned back toward them. "If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for what comes next. Stick around. Things are about to get darker, and much more complicated."